Welcome back to In His Mind. What I wanted to talk about briefly for a few minutes was, well, what's behind the name of this channel. I've been thinking more about this too, and some things have changed. I have been exploring a little bit more as far as on the personal side, the personal perspective, because some of this stuff actually matters and is relevant. Again, there's a lot that's simply ignored or not talked about, which I think is worth exploring. Now, to what depth and degree is going to be determined by the individual. It's not always going to be looked at the same way, too. The importance is there, and that also is going to be different depending upon the individual and what their needs are, or interests are as well. I think when it comes down to scripture, approaching things the same way is hard to do and hard to receive. You can only do that for so long and so many years. This is not to dig at anyone or anything. This is to point out something that happens to all of us, that we get tired, we get frustrated. And I want to say that making things more understandable, relevant to our lives is kind of the point, or a point, not the point. There's a lot there that correlates with, or there's a lot that I say and point out that correlates with scripture and should be understandable or relatable. This is not going to be easy. I know that. But I think there's going to be some fun moments and fun times while discovering what exactly is there. I don't need to worry about the whole lack of monetization, so I don't need to worry about certain things. I do try to always be professional, so I don't need to, worry about things that would worry others. Now, I think there's more to it that I'm not aware of, simply because I haven't done much research on, you got to fall in line with the algorithm, you got to do this and do that and stay away from this stuff, and you'll get 100 visitors per view or whatever. I don't know, and I don't really care. I think there's some relevance to that too when growing a channel, but ultimately, what exactly are you trading off to gain that viewership? You're trading quality, and you're trading a little bit of time and energy too. If I can gain viewers and get some sort of donation later down the road, it would open up doors as far as being able to hire people to help improve this channel. There's just some things that I'm bad at, or some things that just take too long for me to do, where other people could do it 5 times or maybe even 10 times faster. After all, I do have a life, and I work outside of all this, like this channel and all that. As I've told others, this is a passion kind of a project, something that I like doing, and being able to explore and being able to pass on what I've learned and what's been passed on to me, I think is important. When we pass away, we leave the picture, we check out, we move on, we take what we know with us. And it may be gone unless we leave something behind. That is one of the main arguments when it comes down to why emulators exist for old games, is because once this stuff is gone, the consoles and all that, how exactly are you going to play what you bought 20 years ago? Atari is a great example. Same with Nintendo and Sega Genesis. It's a very important point, because it's you made something in the past, or rather you bought something in the past that was made that is no longer continued. Now, translating this over to preachers, pastors, scriptures, Bible, and stuff like that, it's not so much as what was put out, but it's more like what is not covered, what is ignored, pushed out of the way of something else. And largely, the reasons behind that is catering towards those who are donating and putting their time and effort into the church, so therefore they're going to be a priority. God should always be a priority, but how do I put this? When churches and other individuals, they start getting somewhere, they start getting success, sometimes it gets to their head, and the mission, the idea, the goal becomes greater than the God who they serve or worship, or both. I think there's quite a few ways to look at it. Now, for myself, with other Christians, they talk about how they want to follow God and they want to be obedient. It's not that I don't want either of those. It's that I want to be able to walk beside God. I want to be able to be there with Him. Not necessarily as an equal, but being able to walk along and talk and have conversations. That's a lot harder to have when you're behind them than when you're beside them. A different point of view is something that can be very considered in opening up your mind to what you have not considered before. It's like opening up another door, so to speak. Obviously, in terms of like content, some doors should be better left closed than others just because of what may lie behind them. That's why I've tried to always be careful about like certain things. Not just the topics, but the presentation and how I approached this. There's also the whole point of it's good to have structure, it's good to have guidelines and points and all of that. And I think from now on, with the conversations that I have with others, I will make sure I have something written in front of me that I can read off of, like for notes and all that, not just try to wing it, so to speak. I think speaking your thoughts on these topics, and when there are opportunities to do so, it's good, but in the confines of having a conversation or a dialogue, maybe even a debate or a discussion, having points clarifies and keeps things on track and keeps the bunny trails and the side stuff, it keeps it to a minimum. I've noticed that first when I had a conversation with my friend Parker that was supposed to be on the church and taxes and finances and, like scripture and finances and all that. But we went off on the whole topic of immortality. That's like a perfect example right there. It was not intended, but it turned out to be very worthwhile that it just turned into its own little segment. That being said, being able to explore this stuff is needed. It's just not going to be apparent at first until you realize, hey, I have questions that I need answers for, and I'm not getting these answers where I thought I would need them, like in church or from your parents that you may trust, may have a good relationship with. It sucks, but there comes a point where you will move on. Life is about change, among many other things. Consistency should be there, but like I don't necessarily subscribe to the whole like, well, if they're meant to be in your life, so they're going to be in your life. Because relationships and friendships, they both take work, and you can't just simply float around and expect things to stick without putting effort down. Putting effort down is like dropping an anchor over the side. In terms of relationships, like you're going to set camp and they're going to be there, or else the environment is going to be unwelcoming, and you're going to find out rather quickly it's better just to move on because for whatever reason. And sometimes people just don't have the time, and it's the wrong time, the wrong place, and they got to go somewhere. Maybe you'll have a chance to meet up later. It's more like that than you realize. Everyone runs on different schedules after all. So, yeah. This The main thing that, as far as with this channel, I did want it to be a bit more graphic, but not necessarily in a wrong or evil or scary way, just a deeper way. Think of it like going cave diving, where there's a lot that you could show. Different formations, the different structures, what happens when you get to a certain temperature or a certain location. Like, there's different stuff that you can show, not just simply, this is what it is, and then just leave it at that. You could go to the caves where people have ended up drowning or passing away. You could go to the ones where there's crystalline, or the ones where there's actually, like, buildings and stuff inside of them. It's quite interesting. I remember seeing a picture of this cave that was stumbled upon where there was a bit of a, I don't know, I wouldn't say hidden civilization, but more like a previous civilization that existed that no longer is relevant. Well, no longer is with us, excuse me. Something like that will make you stop and think about the possibilities and just how things came to be. Of course, you could always hop over to the horror movies and be like, look at things that went wrong and how these people turned into this and that, and the next thing you know, the whole party's gone and everyone's dead. You could go down that route too. It's just, it gives off a different aura, a different vibe, a different feel overall, and that's kind of a bit on the negative side. I think, as I told my friend Parker, there's still adjustments to be made for the intro and all of that. Intro and the ending, all of that. Of course, some of the stuff is stuck on my laptop that is, I'm having a hard time bringing over to my phone. It requires that my Gmail drive and the cloud for my iPhone account to be set up as well, which I think I finally got down. It's just annoying, a hassle just for the different types of accounts and mediums that you have. But I'm getting there. So, in your thoughts, behind your thoughts, sometimes you go deeper, sometimes you go darker, and other times you hit upon something like a revelation or understanding, and it changes color and shape. And I guess the point there is you have freedom to express and think what you want, say what's on your mind, what's on your heart. And hopefully for me, it's coming across in a way where it's adding value to your life, making an impact in your life from someone else. I just happen to be in the middle of a lot of things where I've noticed that it's been a bit of a blessing in areas, and obviously a couple of negatives too. It's not exactly the same thing as a jack of all trades type, but that wouldn't be too far off, because I know a lot, but I haven't been able to master one or two particular areas, with the exception of probably no, I'll leave those alone. Don't need to go into them now. Yeah, that's about it. There's still a lot more, but adding them to specific topics, bringing specific points up, and then attaching it to them, well, that's what I'll try to do. And scripture is great to be complemented with, or to complement other things with different points in the Bible. I think this is needed, and I will try to apply them where I see is necessary, not just simply throw it around and hoping it sticks somewhere, which is one of the faults that I have with Christians in general. Is like, they just throw Bible verses around, and it's like, I know you mean well, but how does this apply to the person that you're actually talking to? How is this actually going to add value to the life, rather than just simply stress and them getting to feel like you don't really genuinely care about them? Because many people don't get that genuine feeling like they matter when they're talking to someone who just throws out verses here and there. it has a different feel. And I guess in that sense, the whole in his mind also takes on a more personal approach. That can go a couple different ways, but there is freedom in that. Anyway, I want to just take a few minutes to talk about this because it's, well, I had a conversation about consistency and structure with my friend Parker, and there's a lot there. I enjoy having conversations with him. Some things just take longer to talk about and to bring up than others. Not just because you have X amount of time to talk or delve into a subject, but also because sometimes preparation is actually needed, not just like, yeah, this is what I think and blah, 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 and then you're just winging it. Yeah. Now, as far as with like specific conversations, I got a notepad. I could take notes and sit down and we could just like, here's what I got. What do you think? Let's go along these points, and then just boom. When recording conversations in the future, that kind of guideline is really good. All right, until next time. Thank you for listening, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this